Good morning, good evening, good night, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's your nighttime, right time DJ Music, here with another episode of the Chop Shop. Again, we've been thrown a loop. We've been led to down another path of what we're going to talk about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, we will be talking about the migrant crisis, what's going on with that, but
He's naturally irresponsible because
uh-oh.
you have already seen.
Sorry.
Don't worry. Somebody is naturally irresponsible. That's what we're gonna be talking about. Sure.
Perfect.
It's perfect timing. Just naturally irresponsible about it.
Perfect.
But look, I don't know. I'll use Dr. Ritchie's analogy. I don't want to assume how much you know about the Fani Willis case, but I've been following it since the beginning. To me, from what I've seen of it, this is no more than someone that's been trying to character assassinate someone and to benefit someone else. Okay. If you folks, for you folks that are up to snuff on it, we all know that Fani Willis is the lead DA down in Georgia, the top lady in charge as far as law enforcement is concerned, and her and the lead prosecutor, aka her ex-boyfriend, Nathan Wade, was put under fire for the last couple of weeks about their improprieties of dating each other. Seems to me that some people thought on the side of Trump that Fani Willis hired Nathan Wade so she could benefit from monies that they were going to collect, that he was going to collect, because he was a lead prosecutor in this case. Now, folks, think about what I'm saying. All this time, this lady has gone through college, top prosecutor, top law enforcement officer in Georgia. Do you really think it's worth about less than? It's not that much money, and you folks will find out how much. But again, Char, I don't want to guess how much you know about this. But have you been following this case at all?
I know nothing. I have not followed anything.
Well, you in for a treat then.
Thank you.
For a treat. I'll say this. You know, a lot of times we say we don't have black leaders, that we don't have leaders, or just black leaders in this case, that don't do anything. Well, Fani Willis is trying to hold Trump's feet to the fire about the election interference. For all you folks that don't know, Donald Trump called up Brad Ratzenberger and asked him to find 11,780 votes, which was one more than he needed to win the state of Georgia, right? Illegal. Election interference. So my question to everyone that wanted to put Nathan Wade and Fani Willis on trial, did y'all understand that this was not a trial? This was an inquiry to see, but they made it all about these two. We're not talking about Donald Trump anymore. We're talking about these two and the fact that they dated for a time in their life. This was what they were after, to try and get Fani Willis removed from the case. So basically, hopefully that the judge would either throw out some of the charges or all of the charges. Well, he did throw out some of them, but he didn't really throw them out. He just told them, hey, okay, it was like this. The police show up to your house, Char, right? Okay. They arrest you. They take you down to the jail, right? Okay. Next thing you know, you end up in jail for 6 years. What's wrong with that picture? What did they forget to do?
Well, what happened to the bail and all that?
The charges and all that. So you can't just go from going to sending the police to picking someone up to not telling them what they did wrong, right?
For 6 years, I know. That's
right.
Too long.
Exactly. So I say that to say this. This is what the judge said about the charges that I won't say dismissed, but he took off the table for the minute, because they weren't. The charges were too vague about what Donald Trump did. So basically, the judge said, "Listen, you need to go back and revamp this and let us know exactly what you're charging him with. That way he can have a defense on it. Okay.
Okay.
Folks took that as that the judge was going to dismiss all cases. Well, yesterday we found out that he didn't dismiss the cases, and he did not remove Fani Willis from being the prosecutor in this case, which they were trying to do. But what he did do, he said, because of the improprieties, which again I disagree with, because of the improprieties, the way it looked, she should either do one or the other: recuse herself or remove Nathan Wade, which would be the lead prosecutor. To me, if you find out through your inquiry that we did nothing wrong, why would I have to remove my lead prosecutor? Why would I have to remove myself?
Right.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
It doesn't. So you really didn't let me do my job.
Exactly.
You didn't let me do my job.
Right,
Okay.
right. Now, let's get to the point of how we got to the courthouse. I've noticed throughout all the different news cycles, one thing they forgot to mention: how did we get here? What charge could they bring against, or what statute could they use against Fani Willis and the lead prosecutor Nathan Wade to say that they would have benefited from taking Donald Trump to court? It tells them that, but also we're going to see a part of this that they don't show you on the news, folks. You got to dig deeper. They don't show you this on the news, that this was a frivolous charge to begin with. This was a frivolous inquiry to begin with. The judge should have never made it to a courthouse based on the merit of what they were bringing the charges for. So we're going to talk about that. This stream is going to be a little bit longer than usual because there's kind of like a little bit to cover. So we'll do that. And let's let me change something here.
Okay.
Put that there. And now let's go on over. We need to see you. So before we start, is there anything you want to say to the people? Hello, what's going on in Chicago? Let's get to that first. What's happening? I know we ain't talking about the migrant crisis, but you've been sending me some stuff. There's a whole lot of boogaloo going on around there.
Well, there's still talk about eviction of them, but it's a small number.
Right.
And then we have a measles outbreak, and that's supposed to stop them from evicting them. So it's a whole lot of mess when it comes to that.
You know, again, we talked about all of this because we did say that, you know, sooner or later there was going to be a medical crisis, and it is.
Right.
We said sooner or later that they were going to have to find other solutions to put these migrants in. If I remember correctly, in our last week's show, they were going to start telling the migrants to move as of today, which would have been the 16th, right?
Right.
So where they going? Again, that's my question. Where they going to go, especially with St. Patrick's Day going on, and they done turned the water green in your city, haven't they?
They sure have, all up in the way, just blocking all the city.
Say white folks everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, folks, let's go. Char, first thing, the reason why I'm putting, we're going to start with this is the day that Fani Willis initially comes into court. They had not planned to call her, but she came into court with both guns blazing. So let's check this out, folks.
Mr. Sano, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes.
The Fulton County District Attorney made headlines when she brought RICO charges against the former president and more than a dozen of his campaign staff. In an extraordinary moment, Willis marched into the Atlanta courtroom while attorneys were arguing over whether she should be forced to testify. As she approached the
Now, sure, of course, there's no mistaking that you are a woman.
Yes.
Now, looking at that dress, does it look like that dress front or back was on backwards?
No, it doesn't.
So why would these dumb asses, I'm going to go ahead and say, why would these dumb asses in the manosphere say that she just looked like she got out of bed, rushed over there? She was so hell-bent on creating chaos that she put her dress on backwards.
Well, normally when a person do something like that, they misdress themselves, they're stressed. So why couldn't she just been stressed and not in a hurry to do the wrong thing?
Yeah, and some of them even say she just jumped straight out the bed with Nathan Wade. Now, my thing is that those who said that, my thing is, you see that brooch that's right there?
Uh-huh.
I don't think that comes with the dress. So you think when she put that dress on, she didn't look down and say, "Oh, you know, I got my dress on backwards. I'm just gonna wear it anyway."
And if even if that's what she wanted to do,
Makes sense.
okay, I agree with you, but why
Right.
can't she? If she wanted to, that's hers.
Right. If she, right. We had that, what was that little hip hop group, Crisscross? Didn't they wear the
And
clothes
they
backwards
jump.
and became a fashion statement? Jump.
Yeah, right. And they still wearing the pants saggy now in
They
2024.
still doing it anyway. So again, this is why I said it's all about character assassination. Even when, instead of saying this lady came in the courtroom with both guns blazing, ready to defend herself, they took it to as she's just, dare I say the word, the angry black woman. This is how we reported it, not white America. This is how we was reporting it. Of course, we is not me and you, but you know who I'm talking about. The angry black woman.
Been in
Every
the
day.
YouTube streets.
Yeah, the YouTube streets. That's how they would report it. Oh, the angry black woman. Look at her. She's angry. Oh, look at her. She's going up on there trying to this and that. Even so much as that, you know, things that you do that you learn from your parents. Like part of the trial, her pops was summoned to the stage, asking about how she did her money. And Pop told her, when you always have a certain amount of money on you, just in case, not credit cards, not checks, but cash money. You never know. She adopted that to her lifestyle. Do you see anything wrong with that?
You better do that. That's what you're taught. I don't understand what happened there.
That was a problem for not only for the YouTube streets, but that was a problem for the folks that were trying to say that she was showing some impropriety. She was trying to hide her cash. She was trying to hide her assets. She was trying to hide this relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Very well paid lady now.
In court, she looked before the judge, and as the entire gallery watched, she uttered 4 simple words: "I'm ready to go."
Dress don't look backwards to me.
I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Miss Merchant. 3 filings. Does anyone have the 3 filings of Miss Merchant? Does the court have the 3 filings of Miss Merchant?
Now the video is a little bit, you know, you watching those Chinese things where the lips move and then you hear the words.
Okay, got some subtitles going on. Okay,
right, you have to do some subtitles. But so far, Char, let me ask you, from what we've seen so far, does this look like somebody that's coming to court unprepared, even though she seemed to, she wasn't supposed to be called? Does she look like she's unprepared for what she's about to do? She comes in asking for documents that she knows she needs.
Yeah, like she's prepared. She knows how this goes. That's what it looks like to me.
But according to the powers that be, how they're reporting it in the news, and of course in the YouTube streets, this is the start of being an angry black woman right here, because she's coming in demanding shit.
Oh boy.
Character assassination. This is what's been going on for the last month or so. Character assassination. All at the behest of Donald Trump. Don't be fooled, folks. This is not about the person that they're defending. This is all about Donald Trump. Don't be fooled.
When you say the filings, you know, the pleadings?
The pleadings, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I think we can locate those for you.
I don't want the one filed on January the 8th, and the one filed immediately after we filed ours, and the final one.
If you want to take a break to get them, I can make a copy. I think we have one.
The only copy I have is going to have my notes on it. So if we don't have a clean copy,
Have a 5-minute break for
Let's
all
take-
that.
all right.
She says, I'll wait. I'll wait. I'm not going nowhere.
Defense attorneys asked Willis to clear up the timeline of when she hired Wade, as they argue Willis hired him after the two were involved in a romantic relationship.
Let's start back in 2019. So you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct. I think in one of your motions you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr. Wade.
And this was all the rave in the manosphere. Who,
Maybe
Who
because
this
she's
woman was
over
sleeping with?
35.
rather than
Well, you know how that is.
Yeah. But why would they worry about a woman that's over 35? They're not interested in him anyway, according to their standards, right? She didn't hit the wall, right? So
Yeah,
technically-
but that's that's some of the talking. So
Yeah. Sad but true. If they're over 35, I guess a man, Nathan Wade, didn't find that she hit the wall because, hey.
yeah, he was hitting them walls. Hey, watch out, y'all.
Listen, he was clapping them cheeks. He even had a special name for her.
Ooh, what's the name?
I
Fanni
forgot
baby.
what the name. But no, it was something much more, believe me, sexual, referring to her activities up off in the bedroom. Fire.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fire
Y'all gonna
Wilson.
walk. Yeah, it was something. I mean, but it
Willis.
wasn't exactly that. But the nickname he gave her was like, "Whoo-wee!" You start rushing your head. You start looking up like red fox. Sunshine.
Wow.
But again, this what this entire trial was about, folks. It's to defame this woman and this man for having a relationship. This was the basis of this entire inquiry, not a trial, folks. This is an inquiry because they didn't charge her with any crime. They was charging her to say that she should be removed from the case. So this is not a criminal trial. But you would think, if you listen to the news outlets, Fox News, the YouTube Street News, and nigga news, you would think that she was on trial, that she broke some law.
That's what I thought this was about. Just in
No.
passing. Because I never looked at anything. I decided to wait because I just saw some negative stuff. I'm like, well, the woman in power, okay, whatever. And I kept it moving. But this is interesting.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sure, what they tried to do, there's another female mayor somewhere that's kind of under fire. So, of course, they tried to lump those two together, as when birds of a feather flock together. Of course, manosphere talking points and, as these other folks that believe women that shouldn't be in power, these are talking points. See, when you let these women get in power, they abuse it. This is what I've been hearing ever since this evidentiary trial started. It's all her fault. Not Donald Trump, not the other 18 co-defendants going along with Donald Trump. It's her fault. Let's continue.
My teacher, I did not meet him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Weeks, who is a judge. Me and her were just having a conversation. Mr. Wade walks up. I think they hug each other. They have some brief conversation. She introduces us.
But Robin Yurdy, Willis's old college friend, told the court earlier the romantic relationship began in October of 2019. Willis previously lived in Yurdy's condo prior to their fallout, and the defense hammered her on whether Wade visited the condo prior to the election interference case. But Willis fired back, asserting the defense accusations were all lies.
How often did Mr. Wade visit you at a place where you were living between 2019 and 2021?
So you want to start with the lie that he lived with me?
Now, What does this have to do with anything? I'm trying to figure out a word that I could use here, but what does whether he visited you at her place of residence or whatever? The bottom line to it is the question should have been asked, as it was asked, when did you hire Nathan Wade as the special prosecutor?
My question is,
go ahead.
I have to just throw this. People, what is that? I can't think of the word right now, but people have been hiring their friends, families, folks been in Congress and all these places forever. What is the word?
Nepotism.
Nepotism. Exactly. So what is this all about? If she did hire her lover, friend, or whoever he would be, I don't understand.
Me either. I still don't get the actual reason why this was in front of the American people. And I know I'm sounding like a newscaster here, but I don't understand why we spent good taxpayer money on this. Because to me, I don't see anything that, even if they did date, even if she did hire him, I still don't see where those two dating had anything to do with what Donald Trump and the other 18 co-defendants did in Georgia in 2021. What is the correlation? Okay, next question. If you remove Nathan Wade and Fani Willis from the case, are there not other people that could continue this case?
It would be totally different. They would shuck and jive and all of that, but the whole purpose is not to prosecute. Be a deterrent, because they need to keep him as a running mate, so they can't.
Exactly. And again, you folks going to ask the question, why did the judge even bring this to court? A fair question, because right now this judge that you see sitting up in the far right hand corner, folks, he is up for re-election this year.
You don't say.
He is up for re-election this year. So this is why you see Fani Willis in this courtroom, because I'm telling you folks, the statute, the case file that they brought this under is not it's not even close to what's happening here. Not even close. But we'll get to it.
In South Fulton in 2019, a home he's never been to. That's one lie you told him. No, Judge, I didn't ask her about that.
Ms. Merchant, I want you to ask a very precise question. I think she's saying and answering that he did not live with her. So why don't we break that up into smaller parts?
I didn't ask about living. But you put in your, while we're talking about professionalism, she put in 3 different documents he lived with me.
Full opportunity to respond.
And she filed that with the court. In 2000.
I know. Like I said, this is probably going to be a long debate. The reason why I put this up in front, because these were the talking points that the manosphere had. Notice when she leaned back in her seat, that was the sign of an angry black woman to them. See, here we go.
She's frustrated. They're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? You got these 3 things before me, and you're asking me this. What's going on here?
And you know it's a lie. Wouldn't you be frustrated?
Yeah, I would be.
And you know it's a lie. And it's not that it's not only a lie, it's a lie that can be proven that it's a lie. You put it in a filing, you put this in briefs, and then you try to say that you didn't. When I called you out on it, here it is. This is what she's frustrated about. Wait a minute, you said this wasn't in here. You lied and said that this man was at my house when he wasn't. You lied and said that the relationship started here when it didn't. Wouldn't you be frustrated?
Extremely.
19. He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019, I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019. Ever, not once.
In 2019, he's never been to your residence. Anyways.
I lived in my home in South Fulton before I started getting the threats that were here. a house that I paid for with my own sweat and tears. I'm no longer able to live there. But in 2019, I did. And in the 2 months of 2019 that I knew Mr. Wade, 3 months, the beginning of October, all of November, and all of December, Mr. Wade never came to my house in South Fulton. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents. In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
Then it came time to question Willis about the vacations the two took together and who paid for the trips.
Talk about, you said that sometimes you paid Miss Yurdy cash.
When you went,
Now, sure, so far from what you've heard, because you say you haven't been following this case, did this make sense to you?
No, because I want to go back to, well, with her, I would say you falsely put this information in here. Are you going to change it now that you see it's wrong, or did you check this out? But that's just me.
Oh no, they didn't change any of this information. This is like I said, this is when she stormed into the courtroom. Okay, this was the first day when they didn't expect her to be there. She wasn't scheduled this day. She wasn't supposed to be there this day. No, let's get this show on the road now. I'm ready. They thought they were just gonna file this briefing and skate on by. She got news for them. No, not today. Again, it just seemed like somebody that's unprepared.
No, this woman ain't prepared.
Right.
I mean, this woman is prepared to argue against this BS.
Right.
Okay, when you went on vacation with Mr. Wade, let's just go one by one. Let's start with the first one. What's the first time you went on vacation with Mr. Wade?
I think the first time I went on vacation was around April 22. A vacation is a stretch, but I'm trying to be comprehensive. I recall April of 22. His birthday is March the 18th. So that would have been his 49th birthday. I took him to like Tennessee for the day. I think we went to a museum. I think we might have stayed the night. I'm not sure. But I mean, Tennessee's kind of hard to call a vacation, but I'm trying to be inclusive. And like I said, I know it wasn't more than a day.
So you're gonna spend a lot.
I think that we did. That's what I'm telling you. I think that there's a possibility that we stayed that night in April of 22.
Who paid for the hotel?
And I did. It was his birthday.
When did you start dating?
When I started dating Mr. Wade, it was right around then.
April 2020?
22. Yeah, it was around. I don't know, like, it's not like when you're in grade school and you send a little letter and it says, will you be my girlfriend, and you check it. I don't know.
Sure, I don't know if you picked that up or not, but that's one of those lawyer tricks that female lawyer that's talking to Fani Willis used. Notice she said, so when did you start dating? And then she said the date. She said May or June of 2020, right? And then she quickly responded to that. No, 2022. Get it right. But these were the little fine talking points that those guys from the manosphere, and of course Fox News, was trying to say that these were the lies that she was telling. These are lies that she's telling right now. They're painting her in the corner. That's what they're doing right now. They're painting her in the corner. Because see, when you ask somebody something that's on record, they can't go back later on and say, no, they didn't do this. No, it didn't. I didn't mean to say it that way. So basically, this was what was going on for the last week and a half or so, that they were focusing on the timeline of when she said she started dating Nathan Wade, so they could say that she hired him solely so she could benefit from the money that he would be making.
What?
Yes.
You gotta be kidding me. Stop it. I'm gonna hire a man so I can benefit
don't
from
forget,
him.
wait a minute. Give him some coochie now.
She was giving that to him anyway, so that's what I'm trying to figure. What that makes no sense.
But listen, this woman makes over $200,000 a year. I don't
I
think
don't
she
care if
hurting
she
for
made
money.
50,000 to
Right.
hire him and sleep with him. How is that benefiting? I mean, if that was your man already, and he's like, "Baby, hey, we need some money in this house or whatever. Here, I got the ability to hire you, so you can make 200,000." Okay, why not?
Why not?
People do this all the time. They
Right. Why not?
hire their children, their spouses. They do this all the time. This is nothing
right
new.
now. Right. And the person that should be on trial right now, Donald Trump, he hired his daughter and his son-in-law, his daughter, other folks in his family that had no political experience at all. Jared Kushner was the ambassador to Saudi Arabia, never been in politics a day in his life. When he left office, the Saudis gave him $200 million or something like that.
I don't recall, but go ahead.
Yeah. Where's the inquiries on that? Where's the inquiries of the conflict of interest cries on that? Because it's definitely there.
Well, that's been going on forever for them. So
ages, since the dawn of time.
That's how they do it.
Again, and I'll say this throughout this stream, short. This is all about character assassination. Let's make Fani Willis look so bad that we can taint the jury pool. We can sway the jury just enough to say, would she hire someone and benefit? Again, it still does not make sense. I hired someone, but that doesn't mean that Donald Trump did not commit the crimes that he did.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean that they didn't have a fake elector scheme in Georgia. That doesn't mean that Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss weren't affected by what Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani did in Georgia. You heard Fani say she can't even enjoy her own house anymore because of the threats she was getting. Death threats on a daily basis, folks. So much so that her father asked her, you need to move out of here and go somewhere to where no one knows where you're at. I'm sure she hired Nathan Wade just to get go through all this hell just to get a little extra money in her pocket, just so her would-be boyfriend would spend money on it. That makes sense.
Crazy. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we started seeing each other, but it was early 22 is my recollection.
Okay, early 22. And you all went to Florida on vacation as well?
I don't recall going to Florida on vacation with him.
You never went to Florida with Mr. Wade?
When we went to get on the cruise ship, we went to Miami.
Okay, that's the only time you went to Florida. Okay.
I think we went to Miami and spent the night. That's my recollection. I think we spent one night so that we wouldn't miss the ship. That's my recollection.
Okay, so that's recall.
In Miami? I don't remember that.
And how'd you get to Miami?
We would have flown. And we've done that, so that I'm clear, we've done that twice. I think one time we stayed, and I honestly can't tell you, did we stay when the ship left or did we stay when the ship came back? I also can't tell you, so there's 2 cruises out of Miami.
Now, again, Char, I have to lean on your expertise as a woman. Don't you find these line of questions a bit intrusive?
You know, I just started getting angry because I went back to the time that I used to cruise all the time, and I would fly in early and sometimes stay late. And then I'm thinking, I don't even recall each time when I did it. And where's this going? So that was the last thought I had when you stopped it.
Right. And no worry, because you're not the only one that had these thoughts. Because I was watching this trial when I could. Either I would watch it live or I'd go back and catch a replay of it. So these were some of the same questions that you're having. I'm glad that you hadn't followed this. So now you see what, and I'm not being disrespectful, but you've seen this from the layman's perspective. You understand what I'm saying? You don't know what's going on.
Yes, I don't. Mm-hmm.
but it's so far as from the layman's perspective, does anything that you see right now make sense to you?
It does not. And I'm just waiting to see what the point is on their end. Not from you already explained to me, but I want them to tell me what the point of this is, so I can say this is some BS.
Right. You can go ahead and say it now because you will never
This
get
is
to
some
that.
BS.
There's one that's in that October time period that was with his mom. And then there was another that was a New Year's Eve trip. I know I paid for the New Year's Eve trip because the tickets were $697 each. And I thought this is ridiculous that the tickets are $700 to go to Miami. But when you travel during New Year's Eve, you know, they get you.
So let's just back up and talk about the first time that you went to Florida with Mr. Wade. That was the time that you said you stayed in Miami at the hotel the first night?
That's the time I told you I am not sure. So I'm not sure of two things. So I want to make sure that my testimony is clear. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the October trip. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the December trip. I just can't remember that. And I also don't remember, so that the record is clear, I don't remember if the necessity was as we got on the ship or we got off the ship. But I do remember there was a night spent in Miami because either whatever, I don't remember. But I think that there was a night spent in Miami.
That cruise is the one that...
Well, sure, that just echoes exactly what you just said. Sometimes you might go early and sometimes you may stay late. Isn't that what you just said? In your cruising day?
Right. I don't recall each time. Why would I? Why is that important?
Right. If you went with a significant other, do you remember who paid for the plane tickets or who paid for the Uber ride or the taxi ride? It's just something that comes natural, right?
Right. We do what we do.
Right. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Again, so far it don't make sense to me, but maybe it'll make sense to you.
Ma'am, if you have something to refresh my recollection.
Looks like, see if we can bring it back.
Mr. Wade. Yes, and his mom.
And his mom. That's
right. But that folks lost a little.
Yes.
I just want to go back to the issue about the conflict. Because I think that's kind of...
Okay, let me stop that right here. Okay. You saw this, the first part that we saw Fani walking into the courtroom, guns blazing. This was long before it even should have made it to the courtroom. I want you to understand that the lady that you heard talking is the lady that you will see on the screen now.
Okay.
This is the very same lady that's asking Fani Willis these questions in court. So what I'm about to tell you is, folks, she knew before they sat at the courtroom that day that she was about to ask a bunch of bogus questions based on what we're about to see right now, based on the statutes and the past cases that she tried to cite. She knew this was a frivolous charge.
Brought us all here to some extent. On one issue, in your brief, the most recent one that you filed.
The second one?
Right.
Okay.
On page 21 of that, you went in and acknowledged that the aspect about him not signing, I believe, or being duly authorized to be a prosecutor, that's already been handled in one court, but you're still bringing that issue back up. But it has been decided in the negative. In one court, of course, you are still bringing that issue back up.
Yeah, so you're talking about the oath.
Right.
The oath issue.
Okay. Let me go ahead and explain this. This was the first charge that they tried to get the prosecution on, saying that they wasn't sure whether they were going to charge Donald Trump under the Constitution of Georgia or the Constitution of the United States of America. And there was no signature on the paperwork. But the judge found that to be frivolous. Shouldn't even been mentioned here. But here you see the black attorney calls her out on it.
Yeah, so Manny Aurora was working on this issue early on, and he filed a motion about the oath. At the time, it hadn't been filed, and in and of itself, that's not that's not filing an oath. That's not going to get rid of a case. That's not going to disqualify in and of itself. Clearly, the judge told us that in the order. But I was trying to paint the entire picture and how I felt that it was relevant, and it definitely is not a ground that I was arguing for disqualification.
Okay, what she's arguing now, Char, is that when the lawyer says when they get ready to take on a case, they have to hold up their hand and take the oath to uphold the law, whatever, be fair and all that.
Yes.
This was what they were trying to get the case dismissed on first. But some judge somewhere told them, not this. And you hear her babble, manosphere, nigga-splain her way up out of that, right? This guy already told him, no, the judge already said we shouldn't even be talking about this. So she goes on to say, well, it's just a broad range of things that we're not even concentrating on that. If it wasn't concentrating on it, if it wasn't important to you, why would it be in this brief?
Right.
But I felt that it was relevant because it shows that they were hiding this relationship and all the evidence in the case.
Right. And I was just kind of showing why I'm moving on to this next particular point here, which goes to page 24 of your brief, which deals with, I think, the thing that's really out there in the media, which deals with the relationship and aspects of that in some kind of way this creates a conflict of interest. And of course, the judge is going to rule on that, but I still think it's important to kind of go through it. And you cite the case of Whitworth versus State. What in that case actually applies to this particular case?
I don't know if I'm looking. You said it was the last one that I filed?
Yeah.
So February 9th.
Yes, page 24.
Page 24. You said Woodward?
Oh, Whitworth.
I don't see Whitworth.
At the bottom, Georgia courts have developed their own standard.
Okay, this is the case, folks. Whitworth versus Georgia. This is the case that this entire inquiry is based on. This is the case that they decided to take up in front of Judge Marchand and ask the judge to remove Fani Willis and the lead prosecutor, Nathan Wade, from the case based on that case law that you just heard. Marchand versus Georgia, Marship versus Georgia, whichever one he said. The name passed me just that quick. But this is why they brought her to court under this particular case. Nothing more. But let's continue.
The disqualification of prosecutors.
That's not my page 24. You must be looking at a different. The one that was filed February 9th at 3:47.
We can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Microphone just closer to you.
Yes, I want to make sure I'm following.
Hey, what's up, Black Hawk? How you living,
You're talking
brother?
about
Good to see
the
you.
defendant supplemental reply that was filed on February 9th at 3:47.
No, let's go back.
Okay.
Let's use your first one.
Okay.
Yeah. One that's a little bit more. Okay. So that one there on the Whitworth case. Tell me how that actually impacts this particular case.
Which page are you referring to?
Page 24.
Page 24.
Okay, this is the case that she's citing. So now this defense attorney or this prosecutor, which one he is investigating, he's now asking her, how does this case apply to Fani Willis and Nathan Wade? And why are they going to court? How would this case that you're about to cite apply to these two people and asking them about and saying and accusing them of conflict of interest? How did this case? She doesn't give an answer. You see if you find an answer. You see if you hear an answer in this.
Okay.
So the site is Whitworth. The court recognized a conflict of interest as a ground for disqualification, held to arise where the prosecutor had acquired a personal interest or stake in the defendant's conviction. And I don't, I wish I had that case in front of me. I don't have the case in front of me, but essentially, to answer your question, that first of all is physical precedent only. So
right.
Yes, and
but you did cite it
and said
right.
that it's physical precedent only.
And you're using that as the basis, really, to say it's a conflict. There's no other case law that you actually use in this particular brief to say it's a conflict other than Whitworth and also amusement sales, which deals with contingency fee.
Right.
And so in Whitworth, and I have the case if you want to go through.
Okay, as you heard the lawyer right there say, there's no other case that you citing to show a conflict of interest other than Whitworth.
Mm-hmm. He said, I got the case right here if you want to check it out.
Right. I got it right here. So now he's about to explain to her how this case is not applicable. But you will see a little bit later on that this is one of the very things that they're in front of the judge arguing. This very same case that this man is about to tell her is not applicable. So how did it end up in court?
Through it, it actually talks about that there's ways of citing the conflict.
Right.
Number one would be if he had, or the prosecutor had actually spoken to the defendant. Has that taken place?
No.
Okay. Second, has he represented the defendant?
No, he hasn't. There was a motion early on. I didn't even bring this up here, and I don't think we talked about it in the brief, but there was a motion early on because Mr. Campbell, who's Mr. Wade's law partner, actually sent a mailer out to my client and all.
Okay, folks, that was another sticking point for some of the folks in the manosphere and Fox News. The mere propriety of that, they were trying to double dip. Okay, you was trying to get Donald Trump as a client, but we all know this. At any time that you are accused of something, it's public record. So what the lawyers do, they'll go and they'll find everybody that's about to go on trial for any reason, whether it be a traffic ticket, whether it be a murder case, whether it be anything. And they will send them out a flyer and saying, hey, if you need counsel, let us know. Do you see something wrong with that, Char? Yep, you're muted, Char. We'll wait for her to come back. But again, this was the reason that they said that they took this woman to court, folks. I want y'all to understand what's going on here. Right now, they're not even in court. This is to say we want to take her to court to prove we have enough evidence to prove that with this case, that Nathan Wade and Fani Willis distributes and shows a case of conflict of interest. Sure.
This lady needs to go sit down somewhere, but that's what she was called to do, to just harp on that. That's all she got, which isn't going to work. And she's got to stand there and take it. She's been sent. So,
right. And okay, to chronologize this, folks, this was before the pink dress episode. Okay, this lawyer right here knew going into court before she even spoke with Fani Willis that the thing that she was relying on to remove Fani Willis from the case was bogus, and this black lawyer is telling her this. But still, they end up in court under this same pretense. Judge, I got questions for you. I've never been to law school. Go ahead, Sean.
This is all she got. This lady was sent. That's just it. They always talk about agents and all that. This lady was sent. She's gonna stand on that because she has nothing else, and she's just gonna throw around. Well, just want to make sure there's no interest involved. And that's it. She ain't got nothing else.
Right, and that's all she has because, of course, she's not talking about Donald Trump as her client, or I forgot the name of the client that she's supposed to be representing. But we all know that she's there on Donald Trump's behest. We all know this.
Right, she's there for the interference.
Right. Slow delays. He's doing it in the New York trial. He tried to do it in the E.G. Carroll trial. He's tried to do it in Florida. Well, he has help in Florida. And he's also trying to do it here in Georgia. Delays. In the meantime, let's go ahead and throw mud on as many people as we possibly can, especially these prosecutors.
All of the other defendants. Yeah. So I don't think anybody called based on that, but they did advertise to them saying, call us to represent you.
And then they came with the third, which says there has to be a personal stake in the defendant's conviction.
Right.
So is that what you're relying on there, that there's a personal stake in his conviction?
No, in the prosecution also. So, and in that case, that's physical presence only. And I don't remember the specific facts of that case, but it's not just a conviction. And obviously, the state wants it to be just a conviction. And we argued this extensively over 3 hours, I think, in front of the court. But it's also a personal stake in the prosecution, and that was an amusement. Prosecution in that case, that was a contingency fee case, so
that's
that was
correct.
completely different. Yeah.
And so in amusement, it was a contingency fee case. So they had a personal stake, actually, really in the conviction,
Right.
because they only received the contingency fee when the conviction happened.
Right.
So what you're really saying is that they had a personal stake in just bringing the case, because he can't have there's no personal stake in the conviction similar to amusement, correct?
Well, so amusement's a little bit different because there is no conviction in a forfeiture act.
Correct, but they're going to get money if they win.
Right, but there's no conviction.
But they're going to get money if they win. That's the
They
key.
get money if they keep the forfeiture. So it's where that was the forfeiture case. I think that was like game slots.
That's correct.
Yes.
But they get money if they win.
Right. But
That's the only way to get money.
yes. But
They don't get money for bringing it.
So I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Right.
That was not conviction because.
And I'm looking down the chat room. You're absolutely right, Black Hawk. And what I'm doing is I'm chronologizing this. This, to me, this is the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I think this is crucial. This part of what we see now, to me, with this lawyer and this particular lawyer in the courtroom, he is debunking every reason to why you should continue this case to try and have Fani Willis and Nathan Wade removed from the case. He is literally in front of her debunking everything that's happening. So all this, what we see right now, what we're reviewing, went on before Fani Willis even stepped into the courtroom, long before they started the inquiry, as they call it, evidentiary inquiry.
You can't have a
They
conviction.
only get money if they're the dictator. He's receiving his funds. Mr. Wade is receiving his funds because he's billing because the case is going on, correct?
Oh yes.
Not because he wins a case.
No, he can lose the case and still
Absolutely.
make a ton of money off of it.
So what you're saying is the actual conflict is just bringing it.
No, the actual conflict is, that's a long answer. The actual conflict is lying on your disclosures about how much money.
I'm talking as far as this issue is concerned right here. When you use Withworth, you use amusement cells, and they say that there has to be an actual conflict. And amusement cells, and let's go back to Whitworth if we can, because in Whitworth, the person was actually told, the prosecutor was actually told by another prosecutor that they want the case to actually resolve in a conviction. Because what had happened was the defense attorney came to the prosecutor and said, we would like to plead. And the prosecutor basically said no. He went and got advice from somebody, and that prosecutor said, we would like this case to resolve in a conviction.
Right.
And so the question, and that then was held not to be a conflict. So they said that still is not an actual conflict, even though someone told that prosecutor. We want to see a conviction. We actually want to see it go to the end. Don't plea him out. And the court said, no, that's not an actual conflict, because what you have to show is there's an actual unfairness to the defendant in the trial.
Right.
Can you point to any unfairness in the trial that's taking place?
It's not in the trial, so it's not limited just to the trial. But to answer the first part of your question, when you're asking about the conviction of personal mistake, Ms. Willis has made numerous.
And that's exactly it. There it is. That's why I didn't want that part interrupted. So what the lawyer just said to her, the black gentleman just said to her, is nothing that you're telling me, nothing that you're saying relates to this particular case law that we're looking at right here. Nothing says that Fani Willis, regardless of whether she wanted Donald Trump to be convicted or not, does not constitute, let me use my Umar Johnson, does not constitute, I say again, does not constitute.
One more again now, 3 times.
I was about to. I say again, does not constitute a conflict of interest. With the case law that she cited. So again, my question to Judge Marchand, how did this make it to your courtroom? Based on what we're hearing right now. I've never been to law school. But I know when somebody's telling somebody, no, you're wrong on this case.
Mm-hmm.
Public statements about her interest in a conviction. There's some emails that had been admitted as part of it, as part of some of the exhibits in the case. There's a lot of pleadings, so I don't know which one exactly, but talking about her desire for there to be a conviction and jail.
So several of the motions to quash today are arguing that we shouldn't an evidentiary hearing at all.
Okay, folks, even after all of that, all after that debacle that you just saw, we still see, here we are now, in front of judge. Now listen to what he says.
Quash was appropriate on those grounds. So to that end, in studying the law that's been filed up to this point, it's clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one. And the filings submitted on this issue so far have presented a conflict in the evidence that can't be resolved as a matter of law. Specifically looking at Defendant Roman's motion, it alleges a personal relationship that resulted in a financial benefit to the district attorney, and that is no longer a matter of speculation. The state has admitted a relationship existed. So what remains to be proven is the existence and extent of the financial benefit, and then if there even was. So, because I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in those core allegations. So just to emphasize, I think the issues at point here are whether a relationship existed, whether that relationship was romantic or non-romantic, whether it continues.
Okay. You hear the judge here saying, is this relationship possible? Now, I'm not saying the judge is tainted, but from what you heard from the black lawyer, what he was just telling this other lawyer, if there's no case.
Right.
Based on what? Where's the improprieties? Where did the prosecution in this case, we'll call them that, and I use the term loosely, to bring Fani Willis up to this point? What case law did you cite for the judge to use those words just now? Or maybe the judge just said, okay, maybe the mere thought of improprieties or the mere perception of improprieties is enough, because that's what he's basing this case on, folks. The mere thought or the mere perception of improprieties. Not there was any, but that it might have been the thought of, or it's how someone might have looked at it.
Mm.
And that's only relevant because it's in combination with the question of the existence and extent of any personal benefit conveyed as a result of their relationship. With that being said, I don't think that means that everything that has been raised in the defendant's motions, in Mr. Roman's or in the ones adopted by co-counsel, demand an evidentiary hearing. The testimony that would be produced at this hearing is not.
He said it demands. Like that was some jaw dropping. I think so too, Black Hawk. And like I said earlier, he's up for re-election this year. So I think he was trying to, as they've been saying in the news the last couple of hours, I think he tried to split the baby. I think he knew that there was no case against those two, but also I think he knew that he had to please the MAGA base to get back into that seat next year, because he's being hotly contested by someone for that seat that he's in.
Yes. Scott ain't looking too good.
It ain't looking too good for him, is it?
Not at all. Sorry, Judge.
So anything that you want to add so far?
This is a bunch of mess and all about a relationship. That is something else. But continue.
Right, and that's all. That's for the entire time that I've been watching this. This is the only thing that I could bring out. It was all about their relationship, and let's be as salacious as we possibly can.
All right. Were you on the balcony?
Right. Did you do it in the booth? Right.
Were you in a hot tub?
Right. Did
In a
y'all do in the
hot
hot? Who paid for the taxi cab? What did
Did you
y'all
split
eat?
the bill?
Did you split the bill?
Did you have shrimp?
The
I
only
mean,
thing, yes, the only thing that you didn't ask this woman and you didn't ask Nathan Wade is whether he wore a condom or not.
well, if it's still going, maybe so. I don't know. It might come up.
Well, in the YouTube streets, so of course you know on them other parts over there, they asked that question. I bet he hit it wrong too. Negligence.
Position is still subject to the rules of evidence. And so the facts that are going to be developed on the record have to have some relevance and some materiality. Now, contradictions or how things play out could impact that, could change what is relevant. But at the outset, there are a few things that I don't think are. So to that end, I don't think the particulars of Mr. Wade's experience are relevant. I don't think those are material for an evidentiary hearing. His alleged lack of experience handling RICO cases or any inferences regarding the intent from that can be addressed in argument. But in my mind, as long as a lawyer has a heartbeat and a bar card, that lawyer's appointment standing alone is a matter within the district attorney's discretion.
And he's absolutely right about that. It does not make a difference whether you think that this guy isn't deserving of this position. It's up to the person that's hiring him. If she think he's competent enough, he sure does.
Yep, lost his hair early.
Yeah, that paused both. That hit Black Hawk. That hit both of us in that track. He's 32. I thought he was like maybe 42. He might want to find another profession. This profession making him pull his hair out. But again, this from what I've seen so far in this entire trial, it's nothing more than reality TV. Let's put that relationship on blast for everybody to see, and hopefully something comes out of it.
Similarly, I haven't found a reason to find that the regulations or the alleged violations of Fulton County Code are relevant in and of themselves. The violations of these rules can be argued as a matter of law if counsel wish to do that. But I've yet to see case law or anything indicating that these violations, if they did occur, are relevant to disqualification or a pending criminal case. And then finally, the motions have also evolved to include forensic misconduct on behalf of the district attorney. And again, I don't see how these are a necessary topic for an evidentiary hearing, unless it's made an issue in some way. The public statements, in my mind, speak for themselves. And the application of the law to those statements can be argued, and further testing behind them is going to affect the agencies.
Okay. Now, remember that case law that the lawyer cited earlier should have never been brought up in this courtroom again, right?
Correct.
Because she now knows that that's bogus, right?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
This is the opening statements right here.
Oh, okay.
These are the opening statements. Now listen to what he cites.
May it please the court, Your Honor, John Merchant on behalf of Mr. Roman. Just by way of roadmap to give you some allocation of recovery. I've been charged with talking to Your Honor about the conflict issue and the appearance of the conflict and what we believe the evidence to show on that issue. Mr. Sadow, Mr. Gillum will be talking more about the forensic misconduct piece of it. Ms. Willis's church speech, statements made to the media, fraud on the court, frankly, and the book that she gave several interviews for. So I won't be discussing any of those issues. So if you'd like to ask me, certainly I can try to address them, but that's going to be the focus of their presentation. And then towards the end, other folks may have issue-specific type arguments, either in follow-up to mine or the forensic misconduct. But those are the two lanes that we're going to be covering, but I'm going to do the conflict piece of it for you. And on that issue, Your Honor, this is a matter of first impression in Georgia. I can't find a single case that's been published by the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court that is based on this fact.
But wait a minute. Didn't you hear him say he couldn't find a case?
He couldn't find a single case.
Okay, so again, how did it end up in the courtroom? If you could not find a statute to charge these or to show that these folks fall under that umbrella of conflict of interest, why are we here?
Because I'm a conflict of interest. Why?
Maybe it's just me, but I think I have a pretty good command of the English language, speaking it and hearing it. So I just clearly heard him say that he doesn't have anything of relevance that he could speak to say, well, Your Honor, based on what happened in 1986, this is why we feel. He just clearly said, well, there's nothing, no case law before this. This has never happened before, so we're going to wing it.
Right, because I feel it's a conflict of interest.
Right.
That's all I got. I ain't got nothing else.
Or you're going to hear him say that too.
Court cases that deal with conflict-related issues, and more importantly, appearance of conflict-related issues. And some of those are based in state law. Some of them are based on the ethical rules that govern lawyers. Some of them are based on the Sixth Amendment right to due process that's implicit in all of what we're doing here today. I want to remind the court that we're here today on this motion to disqualify DA Willis and her office because of her judgment, frankly. She is supposed to be disinterested under the Sixth Amendment, and she's anything but that. The fact that these proceedings have taken this long and through the convoluted way we've made it here today, explain that. So as I present my arguments, I want the court to understand that this court represents the guardrails for the Sixth Amendment in this context, and Ms. Willis has already been disqualified once. So I would encourage the court to remember what Judge McBurney did in his order disqualifying. The same argument was made in that case as to whether or not there needs to be an actual conflict of interest or whether or not the appearance of a conflict of interest might be sufficient under the facts. I want to make clear to the court.
I want y'all to understand what he just said. It's not that there is a conflict of interest, but the mere fact that there may be an appearance of conflict of interest. Judge, I implore you, he didn't use those words, but judge, do your job and kick them off this case, because my client's Sixth Amendment rights have been violated, have been stumped all over, even though the judge who looked at this earlier said that it wasn't. But he was wrong. Now maybe you can make that right, Judge. What kind of sense does this make?
Yeah.
This is all Black Hawk. You say you're in Atlanta. This is your hard-earned tax dollars going to work right now. If I was still living in Stone Mountain, I'd be mad. I would probably be at the courthouse every day too. Hey, y'all wasted my time. I want my money back.
Okay.
The law in Georgia suggests, and is very clear, that we can demonstrate an appearance of a conflict of interest, and that is sufficient. I'm going to be candid.
Notice he said the law in Georgia is very clear. Now, the law that he's talking about is a law that they just passed a couple of, maybe 2 years ago at best. It's some kind of prosecutor misconduct law that they had passed, that they tried to pass it once, couldn't do it. And then Governor Kemp was under so much pressure from the Republicans because he was up for re-election, he decided to sign it. So no, he's not talking about something that's been going on for years. He's talking about something that the Republicans put in place no more than 2 years, a year and a half ago.
With the court, and there was a Supreme Court decision from 1996, Land v. State, and then there are 2 Court of Appeal decisions after that deal, frankly, in some dicta that suggests that an actual conflict is required. But the Supreme Court of Georgia, since those decisions came down, has made quite clear that the appearance of the conflict standard still applies. And the reason that's important is I think under the Sixth Amendment, which is where we're at, in order to preserve the defendant's rights under that under that provision and under corollary provisions of Georgia law, you've got to consider the appearance of a conflict. And the reason why the appearance of the conflict is so prescient here is because if this court allows this kind of behavior and allows DAs across the state by its order to engage in these kinds of activities, the entire public confidence in the system will be shot.
Now, I want you to understand what he's saying. He's saying if you allow these two to either continue to date or not punish them for dating, the entire judicial system of Georgia is going to be at on topsy-turvy. It's going to be unbalanced. It's up to you, Judge Marchant. What you gonna do
to be reelected? I mean, what you gonna do
if you want your seat back next year?
Right.
What you gonna do? Hey, Black Hawk, I got something in this very stream here. We're going to be talking about one of your native sons here in and remember, this part is all about a proprietor's appearance of things that shouldn't be done, right? But what do you do when it's not actually an appearance, but actually it's done right in front of you? But we're gonna get to it. Let him finish.
And the integrity of the system will be undermined. And so with those sort of public policy and constitutional principles, I wanted to turn to the law in Georgia on disqualification. And Your Honor, I'm gonna give you the law, and I'm gonna talk about the facts and how they apply to law at the end. If you want to talk about the facts earlier, jump right in, and I'll be happy to do that. I'm sure Your Honor is very well prepared and probably knows all the law that I'm going to cite to you. But to give the skeleton outline, the original seminal case that deals with conflict of interest from the Georgia Supreme Court is Williams v. State. That's 258 Georgia 305. And there are basically two methods by which you can disqualify a district attorney. One of them is a conflict of interest, and I'll suggest to the court that doesn't mean an actual conflict. That could mean an appearance of conflict as well. And then forensic misconduct. Importantly, in the Williams case, though, in footnote 4, and I think this is important for the court's analysis about the facts and which box it fits into, the court said there was no clear demarcation between conflict of interest and forensic misconduct, and a given ground for disqualification of the prosecutor might be classifiable as either. And I think that's important because we have facts that fit in both boxes. So if the state stands up and says, well, there's no actual conflict here, Judge.
Notice he said they had facts. What facts do they have? You seen any facts so far?
No, not at all.
What facts?
They still playing.
That doesn't mean necessarily that it doesn't apply to the forensic misconduct. Typically, forensic misconduct relates to statements of the prosecutor designed to impugn the character of the defendant before trial and to affect the jury pool, which we have.
Okay, I want you folks to also keep an ear out for that forensic misconduct that he's talking about, because you're going to hear that a little bit later on in the show, too.
Here, which I'm not going to discuss, but the facts that we have here very much relate to that issue, and there's crossover. Importantly, and I think this is important for the court's consideration of what effect the court's ruling may have, it is if you deny this motion, there's a good chance, if it's reversed, that we would be granted a new trial.
Judge, if you allow these two to continue to prosecute us, chances are everything is going to get thrown out and we will be granted a new trial. He's not talking about that particular guy that they're actually supposed to be defending. They're talking about Donald Trump right now.
Well, I'm like, wait a minute, what trial?
Right. Right. Because keeping in mind now, if you go all the way back to when they first started charging these folks with these RICO acts, they gave everybody time to come on and say, hey, if your name is on this list, come on in now, because the cutoff date going to be pretty soon. If you're looking for a light sentence, come on in now. If not, don't come back later on, because we want to prosecute you. We want a conviction. Letting you know that right now. So if you don't take this now, don't come back later. But based on what we've heard so far and what we've seen so far, do you see any hints of conflict of interest because they were dating?
No.
Have they even talked about any laws that were broken yet?
He just threw out, well, it's no laws, but he keeps throwing out the appearance.
Case, right. The appearance is what that's what they're basing this whole thing on, because all these different case laws that you heard, I went and looked at them. None of them are applicable. I saved you folks the trouble. All those little case laws that he just rattled off, all those were applicable because were not applicable because the laws that the outcome of that was based on someone that was doing something nefarious. They had a reason for the person to be convicted. And I think that case comes back way back from tow cars. And I think, Black Hawk, if you live in Atlanta, you remember the prominent Atlanta lawyer that had his wife killed. I think that's where that law comes from.
So that means we're going to have to do this all over again. In amusement sales versus state 316 Georgia Appellate 727, that's a case that cites Whitworth, which is physical precedent only. The court said.
Now, didn't you just hear him say Whitworth?
Okay.
We heard them earlier. We heard the black guy earlier say, no, you can't use this.
Well,
The assigned prosecutor has acquired a personal interest or stake in the conviction. The trial court abuses its discretion in denying a motion to disqualify him, and the defendant is entitled to a new trial, even without a showing of prejudice. So that means if
misdemeanor probation. So we were the first people to get an offer. And we said no, we wanted a dismissal because he was not guilty. And that did not happen. So obviously there's an interest in him being convicted of something, because when the plea offer was for him to pay a $5,000 fine and have a misdemeanor.
So in reality, because you said that he wanted to extend the case out, he was actually trying to end your client's case.
With a $5,000.
It was going to end. It would be no more billing on that case, because earlier you said that you believe, which was total speculation, that they created this case against your client to do more billing. And what you're just telling me now is that he was willing to stop his billing because he offered your client a misdemeanor and you rejected it. You're the one who's continuing the billing.
So again, I'll ask you, ladies and gentlemen, hearing that and going back and referencing the two now, why are we in court?
Because of the parents. I keep telling the parents.
It's got to be all about their parents. And that's exactly why I titled this Fani Willis Character Assassination, because that's just what this is about. Character assassination, nothing more, nothing less. Drag her through the mud. Drag Nathan Wade through the mud. That way, the appearance is all we need. Delay, delay, delay. By just the appearance of it.
I don't bill by the hour.
No, you're the one that's continuing to make him bill. He was willing to cut that off. You said, I believe that they created this case against my client.
Right.
So they can continue to bill. Well, he basically went out and said, I'm tired of billing. I'm going to offer misdemeanor.
Okay.
And you said no.
Take a couple notes because you had a couple questions there. I want to make sure I answer all of them. So the billing, so as far as the billing and the offer. So what I was trying to explain, I'm glad you gave me this opportunity to sort of go into it in a little more detail. I tried to explain that there are really three classifications is how I broke the indictment down. There's the folks that are involved at the federal level. You see those people having, they were in DC. Then you see the electors. Then you see Kaufman County. These cases could have been handled.
Ms. Merchant, we can't even hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just pull it
I didn't,
right
sorry.
to you. Pull it to the edge of the desk if you have to, so everybody can hear.
Sorry. Okay. So how I was trying to explain it. it is I separate this down into 3 different types of cases. And it could have been handled that way. Coffee County could have been prosecuted in Coffee County if it had been chosen to do that. The stuff with the federal could have been handled in federal court if they had chosen to do that. Then the electors would have been the only remaining case that could have been prosecuted in Fulton County. Instead of choosing to do that, and it's not just my client in particular, but that group in the middle.
And who she's referring to, folks, like I said, this is not about her particular client, this Roman guy. This is about the overall of what they're trying to do, trying to either delay the case or get it thrown out on these merits alone. The breach, not the breach of contract, but the conflict of interest. That's what they are. But as we see, the case laws and the cases that they are citing has nothing to do with this case at all. It does not show that there is a conflict of interest, especially with what they're citing. It has nothing to do with it. Nothing. Has nothing to do with it. So again, I'll ask you, Judge Marshall, and anyone else or any lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Why did this case go to court? Why did we have this evidentiary hearing to see if she was going to be removed when nothing that's been shown that she should have been ever removed or even considered? Only the appearance. And then on this part right here, she says it could have been charged in Coffee County. It could have been charged. Once, if I break the law and you the policeman, Shar, can you tell me if I saw you break a law in Canada? The police not gonna come get me?
Well, it's the appearance. See, it's the appearance. Just keep throwing that word around.
Once they come get me, are they going to tell me? Am I going to choose how they prosecute me?
It's the appearance. It's the appearance.
Yeah, well, so far that's all they got. And I know we're trying to hold on to that, but the appearance is about to fly out the window here. Let's continue with this appearance.
Okay.
By putting them all 3 together, it expands the litigation. How it expands it is a couple different ways. It expands it because when you charge a RICO case, you can bring in evidence of everything. So essentially, instead.
And that's the purpose of RICO. That's why it was conceived. That's exactly why it was conceived, because there was too many folks getting off on technicalities. Let's start connecting the dots. If I get this little guy, he gonna tell on the next guy. The next guy gonna tell on the next guy until we get all the way up to the top man. Then we're gonna put all the dots together. This is why instead of charging in Coffee County, instead of charging in Cobb County, instead of charging in this county, that's why the same thing with YSL right now. RICO, they committed crimes in other places, but it all has to do with the crime itself, the major crime of election fraud. Makes sense? I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job of explaining this in layman's terms. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, you're doing excellent. And they're just going to keep holding on the same thing over and over again. So, it's comical at this point, but
yeah, it is. So again, all they got is appearances and hopes, right? Don't have anything of concrete evidence.
Nothing.
Instead of having a case, a quick case, a case where there's evidence against Michael Roman, only Michael Roman, we litigate that. They expanded it to include these 3 different classifications. What does that do? That means the trial is going to be a year. They can plead people out. They can plead Michael Roman out, they can plead this person out, they can plead people out, but they're always going to have that large enterprise. And it actually does, even if they pled my client out, the offer was for him to testify. So, for him to testify, even though he would not be on trial, his acts would still allegedly be on trial, which still expands the litigation because he's not gone. The deal's not, you can plea out and you're gone. Bye. We're not taking up time with you. It still expands it. So my whole point earlier was that this expands the litigation, because imagine if we just had, like you see in other cases, one defendant. You can limit the information to just that crime and that case. Or you could have 3 separate indictments. But what we've done here is we've put them all together. You've made it so that it's necessary to try them, to have 3 trials, because there's no quorum that can fit all of those people. So that expands the litigation.
So in the case that you cited, physical or not.
Which one? Whitworth?
Whitworth. It says specifically that when the prosecutor goes up, Morgan, who is the person who was not supposed to, who's talking to him, who's the prosecutor, Hobbs informs Morgan, who's the prosecutor, that he anticipated a successful criminal prosecution, but that any decision regarding Whitworth's proposal to Morgan was Morgan's to make. Morgan decided to continue to go forward. And they said that that was not a conflict, that was the prosecutor's decision to make. And you're saying, this is the case you cite. Well, in your case, they actually came to you and said, we're willing to give you a plea. And you said no, which is perfectly fine. But then you say, well, they want to extend prosecution on my client. They were willing to cut it off. And so therefore, the case that you cite is totally opposite than what the situation that you're dealing with. How would you say?
And that's the part that I wanted them to hear. So if I heard that just from doing my research, why didn't the judge hear that?
He heard it.
He heard it. He just chose to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he heard it. Believe me, he heard that loud and clear. So basically, what they're saying is, again, I want y'all to understand this. What she's saying is, what this lawyer is saying in this room is, the reason why that Nathan Wade is doing this building this way so he could have a never-ending source of money from this case. And that way, the reason why Fani hired Nathan Wade is so she can benefit from this never-ending source of money. But you just heard from the lawyer, Roman's own lawyer, that they tried to plead him out, but he chose to say, no, that's all right. So whose fault is that?
Okay.
So again, I'll ask you folks down in Georgia, all the powers that be, how did this end up in a courtroom?
Right.
Say that you have a conflict in this case. Based on this case, just based on this case. That was your first case that you cited in your brief.
I don't think it was actually the first case, but
the first was actually a federal case, but the first Georgia case you cited was Whitworth on this particular issue.
Right, on this particular issue.
Correct.
And again, I don't have Whitworth in front of me, and there's a lot of different facts about these cases. I would be happy to review it and let you know. But what I can tell you is that I still, and we still believe that this is to expand the litigation. And even if it's minor, the law says over $100, that's enough to have a personal interest. So what we've got is these financial disclosures where they're not being truthful. Ms. Willis is lying under oath.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
This
now,
is a bunch of mess.
Yes, even after, just like Steve, like you telling somebody, pretend I already know the answer to what you're going to tell me. But you tell me something completely different anyway.
This woman is lying under oath with, yes. You're in a relationship. Oh, you did this. Oh, so it was 2019, right? You lying on oath. Stop.
Yes. So I'm asking myself, because again, you're seeing this too, not through rose-colored glasses, but from someone who wasn't following this case. So from what you've seen so far, who's lying?
If she's considered prosecutor, she's lying. I don't know. What is she? Whoever she is.
I will. Well, let's just call her the evidentiary prosecutor.
Well, the palm colors are lying.
Yeah.
And full of it.
That's how I see it. Full of it.
Which is the same thing my client is charged with conspiring to do, lying under oath about receiving a benefit over $100. So you've got those. You've got this concerted effort, which we have seen, unfortunately, drag out over the last couple months, this concerted effort to hide this information from the public, to keep this information out. I think that it is very reasonable for a court to think that that is a conflict of interest. And whether or not it's a stake in the conviction, a stake in the prosecution. We definitely have seen a stake in the prosecution. And you know, Whitworth, the problem with Whitworth, and this is
who actually brings the case?
The district attorney. Well,
how do they get the case?
Well, we know a lot more now because of the book Find Me the Votes. So we know a lot more than we normally would know. So, and that's one of the things that I talk about in my motion. In this case, it was actually Nathan Wade. So he's the one that he presented most of the witnesses.
How is your client charged? How are these clients charged?
My client was charged just in the actual grand jury.
Okay,
Yeah.
So grand jury.
Yes.
Okay, so we had a special grand jury.
Right. So we got a grand. So basically, you heard her until he corrected her. She was trying to say that Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor, brought these charges against him. But again, he corrected her. No, it was the grand jury. Not only the grand jury, but a special grand jury that brought these charges against your client. Not Nathan Wade. He's just a prosecutor.
And then you had a grand jury.
Yes.
Who made this determination?
Well, yes.
They made the determination to bring charges, basically. To indict, correct?
Yes, and I.
So are they part of all of this?
No. But I've never had the privilege of being inside of a grand jury, but I have heard a lot about what happens inside of a grand jury. It is a witness who comes, and in this case, it was actually the investigator for the DA's office. So just understand this. It is a very low standard of proof. It's probable cause. I have had clients who were dead indicted. I actually had a lawyer that I worked with at the public defender that was indicted along with his client because the DA presented an indictment that actually had the lawyer's name on it by accident.
Proceedings today and before that
and explain why they suck. I'm Erin Ryan.
Proceedings today and before that Ms. Willis has developed a very personal interest in this case, and Your Honor denies this motion. We're coming back all over again if the appellate court say we were wrong.
So what is that personal interest?
So the personal interest can be, there's no definition of that under Georgia law. And it could be a personal financial interest. It could be a personal interest related to bias against a particular defendant, which sort of falls into the forensic misconduct box. But we have here a very personal financial interest that's been laid out in terms of money received by Ms. Willis as a result of the scheme that she set up. But to get to the issue of the person.
Money received by Miss Willis as a scheme that she set up.
He couldn't even get that out.
I'm glad you said it. You beat me to it. He couldn't even get that lie out of his mouth straight. But it goes back to just what you said earlier. The black lawyer asked the prosecutor in that last little clip there. So in order for what you guys will be saying to be true, to be actual and factual, the grand jury, the special grand jury, the prosecuting team, all of us got to be in on this fix. All of us have to be a willing participant in this cover-up. All of us. And if we know anything about grand juries, until folks put them to this, until their names are published, you'll never know who was on the grand jury. Okay. I don't know, Shaw. I just read your message in the back that said, when did clapping cheeks become a benefit over $100? I don't know.
Well, that's what she was, the palm cutter lady said. She's like, I have to look at it, because anything, anything
over $100, we got to check into. Right.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, right. Hey, she tried to be an expensive chick. She ain't no $40 hoe. I ain't she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke niggas.
Like she all up in it. So it was 2019, right? And you went and you split the bill, right? And you pay.
Right.
Now, what is this?
Yes. You pay for the taxi. Did y'all spend the night? What y'all do? Y'all drink some wine? How much that bottle cost? Who paid for it?
Man, all this for her fake benefit over $100. All these questions. Come on
Yeah.
now.
interest in the context of an appearance. I think that's important. I do want to suggest to the court that there are a number of cases that post-date this actual conflict of interest language that suggests that
Let's move this on just a little bit further here.
that the victim in the case may create
South County, Georgia. I know you can get to try CrossFit, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
moral impropriety.
Okay.
His young.
I'm trying to get to the point of you hear him saying, you know, the proprieties of an appearance of, and all these different things. We'll let this guy talk for a minute, and then we're going to get to something that's a little bit might be a little bit funny, but we all know that we have two members of Congress right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Marjorie Taylor Greene herself is a nut. And Lauren Boebert, if you ask me, is a trailer park tramp. But again, they get to walk the hollow halls of the Capitol building and not be up in front of an inquiry like this with some of the stuff that they have done. So my question to the Democrats as well as the Republicans, when y'all gonna do something about these two chicks?
They're not, because they're kin to somebody.
Okay. Because I think their jobs is a little bit more important than the DA of a particular county. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
Let's see if we can get to a little close to this here. Here we go. Let me turn the sound up just a little bit here. Let me move around just a little bit. There we go.
Both men and women can be fucking guys.
Thank you, Lean In. So this week we're going to talk about Georgia Republican representative, an embodiment of every reason not to try CrossFit, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a punditry-appointed rising star in the Republican Party.
Aaron, I'd say less star, more spectacle, a menace, a wannabe Regina George.
Yes, in her short legislative career, Greene has made a real impression, inspiring such headlines as, "Why is Marjorie Taylor Greene like this? Marjorie Taylor Greene's miserable Congress record. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene the worst person in Congress? And does Marjorie Taylor Greene only have 3 toes on each foot?"
Answer: Marjorie Taylor Greene does in fact have 5 toes. Thanks for debunking, Snopes.
Because, as one of the headlines has alluded, Marge's ability to actually govern is scant, and her interest in governing is even scanter. Because ultimately, it seems that Marjorie Taylor Greene is sort of a cliche of a bored suburban mom who somehow along the way, while leaping between hyperfixations, developed an addiction to attention.
Aaron, do you think...
Now, see, this could turn into an episode of Karen's Gone Wild. But instead, this is an episode of Karen's Going to Congress. And that's basically what she is. She was a bored housewife that had no real, I won't say she didn't have a life, because she got the folks got money. We'll say that. But also, she lives in a town or in a district that we as Black folks called sundown towns. And for those of you that are in Georgia, you'll know about the infamous Forsyth County. You'll know about Dalton County. You'll know about Cobb County. You'll know that if you went to school in her high school in 1986 and 1987, there was not one Black person that graduated that year in that school. How is that? How is this person, from what we've seen so far, ended up in Congress, but yet we all can go to almost 3 weeks, almost a month, dragging this DA through the mud?
Maybe
Let's
we
look
could
at
get
some more
Marge
of
hooked
Marjorie
on water
Taylor Greene.
aerobics. Someone please send Marge a home beer brewing kit. Maybe we could get her into creating a Japanese Zen garden. Humanity would thank us.
She would kill a bonsai tree so fast. When she was a child, she was known as Marge Taylor. And so that's what I'll be calling her, because MTG does not work for me as a set of initials, because most people use it as shorthand for meeting. Those initials are spoken for. Marge's dad, Bob, owned a successful construction company. Her mom, Della, was a homemaker. When she was a child, Marge's family moved from the Atlanta area to a town called Cumming in Forsyth County, Georgia. I know you.
Cummins, Georgia. You can't get no more redneck than that, folks. Anybody who lives in that area know exactly what I'm talking about.
Can giggle, it's fine.
Thank you.
We're all not adults here. One of the most notoriously
let's move
racist
on
counties in the U.S. Between nobody was more online. She wrote on a fringe website called American Truth Seekers under the pen name Elizabeth Camp. That is Camp. Before switching to her real name, posting conspiracy theories about Democrats and some satanic panic redux. Hillary Clinton, obviously. She posted about kneeling NFL players, tearing this country apart, etc., etc., etc. She claimed the Las Vegas shooting was a false flag, which is a thing she loves to claim about shootings.
She loves a false flag.
She loves to claim that shootings are false. It's her bag of trick.
He had media coverage all over the place. I had zero. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen, and I have nothing. But this guy with his George Soros funding and his major liberal funding has got everything. And he's
with an AR-15.
Marge made no effort to conceal her crazy during her congressional campaign. On Leap Day 2020, Green spoke at a gun rights rally where she held up a banner for the far-right group American Patriots USA and posed for photos with the group's founder, Chester Doles, a fifth-generation KKK member and
a fifth-generation KKK member on stage with Nick Fuentes, but yet she's in Congress. But we're talking about Fani Willis making the news because she dated somebody.
Well, it's the way it looks, the appearance, benefit over $100, you gotta look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go through this. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is Lauren Boebert. Okay. Yeah, let's see what she did.
A misunderstanding from someone sitting near her. So they blame the performance, a misunderstanding from someone sitting next to her. And then the Denver Post reported as well that Drew Sexton, someone from Boebert's campaign, confirmed the Congresswoman and her companion were escorted out of the show, but claimed that while the Congresswoman did use her phone to take a picture of the performance, she was not vaping throughout the show. This is the statement they gave. Quote, "I can confirm the stunning and salacious rumors in her personal time. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is indeed a supporter of the performing arts, gasp, and to the dismay of a select few, enthusiastically enjoyed a weekend performance of Beetlejuice," he said in a statement. Well, then, new video emerged of Lauren Boebert, which showed that she was vaping, that she was acting completely inappropriate. You can see the pregnant woman behind her telling her to stop. You can see Lauren Boebert waving her hands. There's another video that I want to show you after I show you this one. It's the new video that surfaced that I want to focus on as well, but I wanted to set the foundation before showing you the new video. And so this was a previous video, not the new one I want to show you. This, though, is Lauren Boebert with, you can see the lights here on, and you can see Boebert clearly vaping. You can see Boebert being escorted out. You can see Boebert shining a light and taking photographs while it. You can also see her new boyfriend there appears to be groping her breast as well. So let's play this clip, and then I want to talk to you about the new footage. Play this clip.
Boebert, Boebert, Boebert. Say it 3 times and she appears in security video from a weekend performance of Beetlejuice, where the Congresswoman was kicked out of the theater for being disruptive. The DCPA says she was vaping. Boebert's team denied that, said the haze was from fog machines in the show. That claim goes up in smoke when you see the video. The pregnant woman sitting behind Boebert told the Denver Post she asked her to stop vaping, and Boebert refused. Her one-woman show continued, taking flash photos, raising her hands and dancing, often the only one clapping or standing up in the crowd. Boebert occasionally took a break from being disruptive to enjoy the company of her male companion. He briefly had a grasp on the situation before ushers returned and told Boebert she had to leave. The theater's...
Okay, this was the video that was initially put out about this. And they was just going to sweep this under the rug show. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this was a play at Beetlejuice to where a sitting member of Congress with all these people around decided to play hanky-panky in a public place.
Oh, wow.
But we walking around screaming and yelling at Fani Willis for doing her business behind closed doors. because dating someone. We're screaming and yelling at this woman because she might have spent some money on her boyfriend, or her boyfriend might have spent some money on her. But we're not talking about this. I know it's been some months ago, folks, but I think this is a little bit more. What's the word that he used? Appearance. This ain't appearance. This is fact.
Okay.
But what you see now is what they initially put out there, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they initially put out about Lauren Boebert, but now we know that this is a lie. So let's continue.
Incident report says Boebert pulled the "Don't you know who I am" card on the way out, giving theater employees the single finger salute.
Okay, so in the new footage that emerged, and folks, this is real footage I'm going to be showing you. What you'll see here is that basically Lauren Boebert and the boyfriend are at this family theatrical performance, okay, in public, and they are groping each other. And what you'll see is you'll see him grabbing her breasts for a significant period of time, and then you'll see her grabbing his genitals as well in public, open space, at a family event. You can see what's going on right here, just so you see it on the screen. This is real footage, folks, of what was taking place at the theater. You can see there the hand, you can see where her hand is placed, you can see what is going on here. And folks, this is a member of Congress.
You're saying it.
Sitting member of Congress, folks. But they're going after this DA. I know it's just taking a little bit longer, but I just wanted to prove the point of what we as American people see. We see you going after someone for the smallest of things, but things that people should be held accountable for, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Lauren Boebert, like all these other congressmen and different things like that, the things that they're doing. But yet, the whole world is focused on Fani Willis and her love affair with Nathan Wade. Let it make sense. Let's move on to our next clip.
Client, Mr. Roman, nor other clients as it relates to the prosecution against Donald Trump and his cronies for attempting to overthrow a Georgia election. I will provide you with some of the commentary that has already been done. Here it is.
How long does Fani Willis have to make this decision?
Well, Mika, one would expect that you would make it very quickly. Keep in mind, I want to just give you the larger context of all of this. For the past 2.5 months, this has been all that we have been talking about. We haven't been talking about the facts of the case against Donald Trump. That really has essentially ground to a halt. This has eclipsed that total.
That's the point. For the last 2.5 months, we have not been talking about Donald Trump. We have been talking about Fani Willis. Delays. So much so that we're not even talking about Donald Trump. And although the main reason that why we're in Georgia to begin with, the only reason why Fani Willis is on our radar is because of what Donald Trump did. Right or wrong, Char?
That is correct. So you're telling me since January 6th of this year, it's not about Trump. It's about Fanni.
No. Sorry, folks. Ever since January 16th, this is all we've been talking about. We ain't been talking about Trump.
It's all about Fanni.
It's all about Fanni. And then Bee Gees made a song about it. Fanni, be tender with my love. You know how easy it is to break it.
Wow.
That's what Donald Trump was singing. Everybody else.
All because of appearance,
Right, appearance. The
could
appearance.
be beneficial, ain't they after $100,
Yeah, they dating. She might be, her boyfriend might be spending some money on her that he make from his job.
And since we really don't have nothing, we're just gonna say, well, you gotta get rid of him.
Right. Let's throw something at the wall and see what sticks. Again, I think what it is that it's not so much that they were prosecutors. I think they were just the wrong color.
You know, that could be it too. However, because they want to have Trump as a running mate, they got to delay whoever it would have been. So I'm going to say that
I
too.
mean, that's again, that's what I mean. Delay, and Trump has been quite successful at delaying his trials. Quite successful at it. And this is just another chapter in delay. And this chapter had to include the dismantling and the discredit of Fani Willis and Nathan Wade.
Yeah.
So what the judge here is saying, and it should be noted that this can certainly be taken as a win for the DA's office, but basically what the judge is saying that, okay, get rid of Nathan Wade, get rid of this appearance, and then therefore you guys can move on with this case and kind of get out of this pause position. A couple of things that I want to note here though, Mika. One, I do know, and speaking with a source that is close to the judge and familiar with the judge's thinking, that this order has been written since early last week. So that's certainly notable because, of course, everything is tied to politics. The judge is running for re-election, and so this was written before he drew any opposing opponents in this race. The other thing.
Okay, there you have it. You heard it out of the horse's mouth, folks. The judge is running for re-election, and the one other thing that made him hold this, we could have found out about this last week. I'm sure he had his mind made up long before that. But what he was worried about was the backlash that he was going to get from these MAGA supporters. That's what was his concern. Not what was happening to Fani, not what was happening to Nathan Wade, what was going to happen to him if he decided that, you know what, it's really nothing that I can find her at fault for doing. But tell you what I'll do is I'll figure out a way that it's feasible for both parties to become a win-win-win. MAGA folks won't be mad at me, and the rest of America won't be mad at me either.
Though is that I understand that because he has already received threats, he waited until today to allow for proper security to be in place for him and his family. He has 2 young children, and that is another reason why we're getting this on Friday of the deadline. But certainly a big decision in this case, Mika.
And there's a lot more, including the response from the Trump camp. Trumpites are about to explode. Now, we'll say this. The judge, McAfee, he dropped some of Donald Trump's charges this week. Well, many Republicans praised them for dropping these charges. Also, Robert Patillo, attorney at law, is running against Judge McAfee in Fulton County. Judge McAfee has an opponent. Robert Patillo happens to be a dear friend of mine. He fills in on my radio show on occasion here in Atlanta. He is a real opponent to McAfee. There's more commentary. Here it is.
Laura, there is a lot at play in today's decision. Help us break it down for us. Some tough language in here as well.
Some tough language indeed, Kristen. This is not the result that the District Attorney Fani Willis wanted, but it's certainly not the fatal blow that it could have been if Donald Trump and his co-defendant had got their way. So let's remember what the original ask was. The ask was to have the DA removed completely from the case over an alleged ethical conflict of interest from having her boyfriend, Nathan Wade, her then boyfriend, former boyfriend, lead the Trump prosecution. Trump and his co-defendants had alleged.
She made sure she said that, didn't they?
They just, man.
Even the so-called news that's supposed to be fair and biased, you know how they report this?
Right, just say the man's name. Why he gotta have a label?
Just say his name. That's it. Say that again. Just say his name. Why you got to throw boyfriend in it?
Right. You don't get. You get Mr. Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, former
Right.
this. That's all you get. But look, you got her boyfriend, her ex
Her boyfriend.
boyfriend.
She might as well say her. She might as well say her boo.
Her boo, yeah, her boo. Come on now, y'all got to stop. We see you.
Look, when you look down, because I go through and I look out for something to put down in the description. So part of the description, you'll see the word boyfriend in there again too, and that's coming from another reliable news source. So all I did, I know you're gonna be there's some folks me, hey, you plagiarizing. No, I just wanted folks to understand to see who was gonna catch what. Shaw, you caught one of the things I was going to say. I'm wondering if anybody going to catch these little shots that these folks is throwing. Her boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, isn't he an attorney? Give a man his respect.
I'm going to give him his title.
Right, Mr. So-and-so.
And he's going to try and clean it up, talk about her ex-boyfriend. That didn't make it any better.
Right. Yeah.
Her boyfriend.
I'm done. I'm just done.
That there was a financial entanglement, that the two were taking
Entanglement. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just done. Stop it. Just stop it.
I did the same thing. I'm sorry, but as soon as he said entanglement, what face popped up in my? What do you think popped up in my? Man, damn, Jada done dated him too.
Oh my goodness!
Keep my wife's name out your damn mouth.
Oh no, this is just too much.
Entanglement.
It gotta be everything. Oh my
goodness. Entanglement. Let's continue. Yeah, I know. I worked up a sweat on that laugh.
That was the conflict that was alleged. The judge in this case this morning saying that defendants did actually not prove an alleged or did not prove an actual conflict of interest from all that financial entanglement. However, the judge is saying there is an appearance of conflict given how all of this played out, given all the evidence that came out during the days-long hearing there in Georgia. The judge is saying the DA essentially has two options now, as you laid out, Kristen. She can either remove herself and her entire office from the case completely, which would be a severe blow, or she can remove Nathan Wade from the case, which is perhaps much easier to do, and anybody else could certainly step in his shoes as opposed to wiping out the entire prosecution team. There is certain language in here that if I'm the district attorney, I find very troubling. Some of the tone that the judge is using, talking about the allegations against her, but there's other language where in other ways he sort of exonerates her.
I will provide some context to that. If you recall, just a few days ago, I provided my exacting stance on this element known as disqualification, that the defense provided absolutely no proof that any conflict existed between the DA and their client, which, by the way, is the...
Again, none. And again,
Right.
this is a professor here, folks. And again, I'm a layman. Sure, you're a layman, but here is someone that actually is in that field, saying that the prosecutors themselves didn't show any evidence of improprieties. None at all.
premise for the motion. There is no other premise. It doesn't.
Or the premise for the motion, which I cited, which I kept saying, because she kept going back to that one particular. No, but you had someone arguing for, it was in another courtroom, which you were telling you that this was not applicable.
Right.
So the premise itself was wrong.
No matter if you believe she has violated some city or county ordinance, that's not part of the motion. With millions watching and many people benefiting from it, I'm out of that phase, been out of that phase for a long time. You see, Republican.
Now, I want y'all to listen to this part, and sure, we're going to wrap it up here probably about in the next 6-7 minutes or so. But I want you folks to listen to this part right here. And I'm in full agreement with what Dr. Richie says. Listen, we're at this in this political arena now that I don't need my politicians to be perfect, because I know they're not. We've seen enough evidence over the year that you cannot trust Republicans, Democrats, whatever they want to call themselves. They're all in the mix. But when it comes out to something that we've seen here, that is clearly a case of no evidence, no justification to drag these two people to the mud. Now, this is what Dr. Richie is about to tell you. is what first caught my attention. This was the first time I heard something about this case. So this was the very first thing that I said. And this is what he said about the case before it got real national attention.
Kids don't need their leaders to be perfect either, i.e. Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, etc. So while we wax poetic about how we need leaders who are willing to hold the powerful accountable, I don't agree with every decision DA Fani Willis has made. I have publicly opposed Fani Willis in this city for decisions she has made as a prosecutor. I stand by it. But let's be very clear about this decision. She was willing to make the decision to do exactly what we all know would have happened to anyone else. If anyone else would have attempted to overturn a Georgia election, they would be prosecuted. If they would have made those phone calls and not have been a president of the United States at the time, they would have been arrested. They would have been charged with felonies because that is the law. You have somebody in position who's in perfect yes. We all are. There is no perfect leader among us. She files the motion. She goes through the processes. There is no allegation of violation of constitutional rights. There is no allegation of violation of statutory dynamics. Everything was done by the book. You had a special purpose grand jury, looked at the evidence, said indict. Then you have a normative grand jury, looked at the evidence and provided a true bill of indictment. And then you have the formal bringing of the charges and the formal actual prosecution happening. Multiple people have already pleaded guilty. There is no allegation that the rights of the defendant have been violated. There is no allegation that somehow statutorily there was something missed. And here's the part, here's the icing on the cake. They cannot make any credible allegation that somehow Mr. Roman, the defendant, was mishandled. You know why? Guess what was on the process? Nathan Wade. Nathan Wade is the managing attorney that oversaw the process to make sure all of your I's were dotted and your T's were crossed. So while you can talk about qualifications, which, by the way, the judge said they are not able to talk about the qualifications of Wade because Mr. Wade was well within his right to accept the appointment, and Dave Fani Willis was well within her right to make it. You cannot find any mistakes in the paperwork. So Mr. Wade actually is doing a good job. And according to the record, he has worked more hours than he was paid. All right, here we go. Let's put it up full mass. Per the AJC, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Fulton County judge gave D. Fani Willis a choice. Either recuse yourself and your office from the election interference case against Donald Trump, or simply cut ties with the lead prosecutor and former lover, Nathan Wade. On the ruling, the judge found there was no actual conflict brought about by the relationship, a finding that would have required Willis to be disqualified. Quote, without sufficient evidence that the district attorney acquired a personal stake in the prosecution or that her financial arrangements had any impact on the case, the defendant's claims of an actual conflict must be denied. Let me explain what this means in very simple terms. The motion said D.A. Fani Willis hired Nathan Wade in order for Nathan Wade to take her out to dinner. That's basically what the motion said. That she utilized.
Y'all understand that? This is what the motion, this is what they were trying to say. Char, you heard me say that earlier. But this is what the basis of their whole argument is, that D.A. Fani Willis hired special prosecutor Nathan Wade so she could benefit from the money and he could take her out to dinner. It boils down to. That's what it boils down to.
It's crazy.
All that stuff that you heard about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert getting felt up in the theater, none of that is important. But the romantic life of a prosecutor that's about to take Donald Trump through the ringer is. How much money?
The amazing authority of being the DA to hire a special prosecutor for the sake of the special prosecutor to take her out to dinner. No one believed that. As a matter of fact, the defense didn't believe it because you know who they never produced to testify? A forensic accountant. They never produced a forensic accountant to testify that Nathan Wade.
And I told y'all that, folks, that was going to come back because you noticed several times you heard all those lawyers use we have forensic evidence, but they never once during this trial produced a forensic accountant, number one, that could show you that Nathan Wade slept at her house in South Fulton, that any credit card, any nefarious money going on back and forth between those two. There's no way to hide what you do these days, folks. There's no camera that you can dip out away from. When you go into a store, you're being taken a picture of. When you're driving down the road, you're getting taken a picture of. When you have your cell phone on and it pings if you might be at a cell tower 5 miles down the road, but when you get to the next cell tower, guess what it does? Your cell phone picks up that next cell tower. So I'm sure through all this forensics, they could have found out whether he made a phone call from her house or not, whether his phone was in the vicinity. They didn't do any of that. They didn't produce any of that evidence.
And even if they did, now what? What they have
so
to
what?
do with this?
Point.
Exactly.
So what? Even if you did, so what?
Its financial income was directly linked to any of these trips or to Fani Willis and the dinner because he was paid by the government. Typically, that's the first individual you put up under oath. They did not produce one. There's more. These findings is by no means an indication that the court condones the tremendous lapse in judgment opinion that Georgia law does not permit the finding of an actual conflict or simply making bad choices even repeatedly, and it is the trial court's duty to confine itself to the relevant issues and applicable law properly before he added. Now, we'll say this to Judge McAfee. He did wax poetic about the unprofessionalism of Fani Willis, which I find laughable because Donald Trump and his cronies will be well outside of the boundaries of professionalism. Let's see if McAfee comments on that in the future. But he also basically highlights that he questions the testimony of when the relationship started. Once again, McAfee, that seems out of bounds here, given the, as you call it, strict parameters of the law, of your authority. There's more. The judge did, however, also find, quote, the prosecution is encumbered by the appearance of impropriety. As the case moves forward, reasonable members of the public could easily be left to wonder whether the financial exchanges have continued, resulting in some form of benefit to the DA, or even whether the romantic relationship has resumed, he wrote.
Okay. To me, Char, we're gonna wrap this up here in just a few seconds here. But to me, none of what the judge is saying in this particular ruling makes sense to me, because if you thought that there was some impropriety, there was some conflict of interest, you just told the prosecutor, the folks that brought Fani Willis and Nathan Wade to you, you just told them that there was none. End of story, Judge. None of this needed to be added. So who was this for? Was this for the MAGA crowd? Was this for the next set of voters? What is that? What is that? What's that? Ruby says sometimes, Sean. She said this is a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
Pretty much what it is. Backhanded compliment. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let me just wrap this up by saying this right quick. Like, listen, again, there's nothing about our judicial system that's perfect. Never will be. But when you see things like this, and then when you see black people jump on the bandwagon against our own is kind of disheartening to me. Because as I'm traveling the YouTube streets, I see these folks. I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to waste to call their names because they knew who they are. But they was just saying the damnedest things about this woman. Forget all her accolades. Forget all the things that she did to get to the position that she was in. Do you really think, folks, that this woman would have put her entire career on the line for some tallywhacker? And if they were doing something nefarious, shouldn't Nathan Wade be just as much accountable as Fani Willis is? You folks in the YouTube streets, did y'all ever think about that? Or is it always the norm, par for the course, her fault?
That's sad. That's sad because, again, it goes back to, for me, from what you've seen and the few little posts and stuff that I've seen in the YouTube streets, it's not adding to what's really going on here. If you have a backwards dress on, okay, most people are distressed when they have like a man. Sometimes he button up his shirt, he's a button off. He could be going through something stressful or just in a hurry. Okay, so does that make you been cheating, got a power issue, So I don't get any of those things. But with this here, this has had nothing to do with what it should have been about.
Donald Trump and those other 18 co-defendants.
Right. Who sleeps with who, when they did, 2019, 2020, went to your house, whatever. It had nothing to do with anything.
Absolutely nothing. And that's before we go, Charlotte. The one thing that kind of disturbs me also about this is that, how did they get this information? Who was the catalyst for all of this, for them to call this out? You know who it was? Someone that she tried to help out. Her roommate, an old friend that she had a falling out with.
Oh, Lord.
I'll fix her.
Now you could go talk about her. Now that'll be interesting. Let's hear about that woman. Let's
see how many skeletons are going to fall out of her closet when she open them up. Boop, 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 boop. That's mine. Excuse me. That's my ball right there. That's mine. Leave them right there. All 5 of them, they mine.
Yeah, but seriously, that's unfortunate, and I'm sure she had possibly, allegedly. Yeah, let me throw out them terms. She might have allegedly got something out of it over $100.
Yeah, I'm sure she got something over or promised or something like that, because the whole the majority of the case was based on when she hired Nathan Hale. So they really peppered her about the timeline that she spent around them as as so-called friends, girlfriends that kind of talk. So what she was trying to say that no, what Fani is saying is wrong. She's lying. I was there when she met Nathan. And they've been dating longer than that. And that's what the prosecution ran on. Just that. Mm-hmm. That and appearance. That's it. Nothing more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get up out of here. I promise you next week, not unless something comes up that we got to talk about it. I didn't want to go to next week talking about this Fani Willis debacle, because that's what I call it. That's what I call it, and it's what it always will be, a straight out, as you talk about witch hunts. This was an authentic witch hunt. This was a defamation of character, and I hope that DA Fani Willis does something about this. I really hope she does. So with that, Char, anything you want to say before we get up out of here?
That's it. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank y'all for hanging out there with us. For those that were dropping in and out, thank you so very much. Again, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, too, folks. If you're inclined to, come over to the radio station. You can hit us up in the listening lounge, or you can tune into one of the apps, the Music Cafe. We'll be playing some smooth and romantic music tomorrow, since Fani Willis put us in the mood for it. That, folks, we'll see everybody. Watch your 3, 6, or your 9. Be safe out there. And again, like, share, subscribe. Don't leave me no nasty gram, because I done told you. I respond to nasty grams. I don't delete them. Right? Have a good night, folks. We out here.